3, 2, 1, and welcome back to Chasing the Racing, episode 29. And we're joined by the lovely Dom the Bomb Herberton.
I know this. We're sitting right next to each other for a change. Normally, we're looking deep into each other's eyes. This is a bit off-putting. I'm not going to lie, son.
We've got an interview coming up with Glenn Irwin. It ended up being a really long interview, so we'll have to keep the intro quite short and sweet.
This is going to be quick fire facts, so let's go straight into it. MotoGP, what's the crack?
So there's a MotoGP race today. Actually, I presume you didn't get to watch it.
I saw a bit of it.
Oh, did you? What did you see?
Well, I went to pick me dad up and saw the start. It was unreal, absolutely fantastic start. Because Marquez was what, 4th row?
Yes, because he had that huge crash in qualifying.
I went face planting on a MotoGP bike, didn't he? No, he started from the 4th row and he just hugged the white line all the way around, and it was just like he made pole position look like you don't need it. He just went mowing through. Who was the lad on pole?
Quartararo.
It was like one of my starts. He ended up right at the back. What happened there?
I know. He actually did the fastest.
Would you like a wine gum, Chrissy? By the way,
go on.
Go on. Carry on talking while you got a gum in you.
After the fastest, he did the fastest lap ever in of that track history.
Really?
Yeah, in practice and qualifying. And then I don't know what happened. I haven't sort of read the news articles or anything, but it didn't happen for him on race day, and he finished right down the order. I think he's about 9th. His teammate beat him, and after so much promise from the weekend, he struggled to deliver. But
speaking of not delivering, Lorenzo, how crap is he at the minute? He's just not getting along with his Honda, is he? At all. It's just not working for him.
I know, and I don't know if you've seen Phillip Island last week. That was a fantastic
No, I didn't
race.
see that.
Really good, mate. Rossi got the whole shot, and there was about 7 of them all changing positions for the lead. It was a mint race. But same again for that. Lorenzo was he was dead last, I think, and I can't remember how far he finished behind the leader, but it was absolutely miles off. But I tell you what, just before we get into the conversation, we need to get the sponsor in.
Of course, sorry.
Sponsor. So
the sponsor.
Absolutely, yeah. So this podcast is sponsored by Incontango Training, a leading risk, finance and treasury consultancy. And I had an email this week from Jonathan, the guy that runs the business, and they've just got a website sorted, www.incontangotraining.co.uk. So you can check out what they do on the website.
No, not you can, you will. If you listen to this, you will go to that website and you will look at it.
And they've just changed the Twitter handle as well, so it's at Incontango Train. So Incontango Train. So check that out, and thanks so much for being so loyal and sponsoring this podcast. Really appreciate it.
Honestly, I think this is the longest relationship I've been in, to be fair. No, obviously, a big shout out on my personal side of things. Eileen Davies yet again, so she's obviously chucking a couple of quid my way. So thank you very much, dear. You're a superstar.
And for like you say, the MotoGP results for today, Maverick Vinales took the win ahead of Marquez, and Dovi made the podium. Rossi 4th ahead of Rins, Morbidelli, Quartararo and Jack Miller making out the top 8.
He got a podium in Australia, didn't he?
Yes, Miller, fantastic race, but he was not, you're not gifted a podium in MotoGP, but unfortunately Maverick Vinales having a go to try and take the race win from Marquez on the last lap. Chuck went over Lukey Heights, and I've never seen a crash like
the
it.
Wind.
He kind of went to high side, and it looked a very innocuous, sort of just a little rear slide, but the way that track is, obviously it's like a roller coaster, it just turned into a real vicious high side and just chucked him over the bars, and off he went. You've got to hand it to him for having a go on the last lap, but Marquez just stalked him the whole race, made his move, and then he just didn't have a reply for him. But that promoted Jack Miller from 4th up to 3rd.
But it was good to get a local lad on his
absolutely,
local GP. So
fantastic result for Jack.
Keeps him in the job for next year.
That's it. Big news from today as well is Marquez's brother, so Alex Marquez in Moto 2 wrapped up the Moto 2 World Championship, so
which is kind of fitting for this podcast, isn't it? Because there's obviously something in the bloodstream, as far as what's going on with these families. But obviously you're going to announce who's on the guest. Sorry, my brain's having these wine gums have frazzled my brain, youngin. No, so we never got a chance to speak with a guest about, that book you were telling us about. Bounce. Is it called Bounce?
Oh, yes, yeah.
Yeah, so no, it's a shame. Obviously, next time we catch up with our guests, we'll have to have a talk about that book. What was that book called again? I'm gonna have to buy that book.
Bounce.
It's just about the environment that you're in and everything. So
so it kind of discusses the this whole sort of nature nurture debate.
Yes,
and the guy that wrote the book, his chosen sport was table tennis, and he lived in an area in London where there was a 24-hour table tennis club, and all the local kids had, or the members of the club had keys, so they had the access to be playing each other competitively for a lot of the time. And in this tiny area in North London, so of a radius of a few miles, there was like two British champions, 3 world champions, loads of European champions, and his debate was it can't possibly be all to do with this talent.
Aye.
So like this,
talent,
what we would say is the nature. So like the genes. It can't possibly just be the case that in this tiny area in North London, they've all just got this special gene that they're all good at table tennis. His argument was the fact that they've had the opportunity, they had a special coach there, they all got to play each other, that there was circumstances where they were in the right conditions to practice, and that allowed them to get the success that they did. So and there's all kinds of
theories and bouncing around and stuff like that, shall we say. But no, like you say, talent only gets you so far. Natural talent only gets you so far, but you've got to make that up with skill. And obviously, in this case, it's the Marquez family are very much that. You've got 2 world champions bouncing around your living room. They're going to push each other on, aren't they?
Absolutely, and there'll definitely be a proud mum and dad in Spain tonight,
rolling in the cheddar.
Not that they weren't already proud, but
another way, horrendously disappointed.
Another world title. It's a phenomenal sort of achievement for the family, and well done to them. But I tell you what, just before we get on to the interview, I would just like to say that do you know how we've got the British Talent Cup in this country?
Oh yes,
obviously it's actually ran its course in this country, but it's the championship where all the kids are on the same bikes, and bringing talent through. There's the Asia Talent Cup, which we're racing over in Sepang with the MotoGP this weekend.
Yeah,
and there was a 20-year-old lad, Afridza Munanda, I think that's how you pronounce it.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, lost his life in an accident. So, from us are chasing the race, and obviously we just send out our deepest condolences to the family and friends.
Definitely.
So yeah.
But no, so it's like I say, we'll step it up from there. So everyone get comfy, because it's a long old chat, this one, but it's worth it. It really is worth it. And it's our guest. He's very honest. He's off the cuff, and it's great to have him on, isn't it, Chrissy?
That's it. And so over to our guest, Glenn Irwin.
And here we are on Chasing the Racing, and we have the Irish Austin Powers International Man of Mystery, Glenn Irwin. Are you there, mate?
I am indeed. How's it going? How are you?
Oh, everything's groovy, baby. Groovy.
Yeah, baby, yeah.
So Glenn, obviously hasn't been the best year this year with the racing, but I tell you what, we'll start from the beginning. And obviously you come from a racing family. Your dad has a fantastic history. What's your sort of first memories of growing up and getting into racing yourself?
First memories probably being in the paddock, at dad's racing, so like being in the Northwest 200 and the local like Irish short circuits and whatnot. And you could never walk through the paddock and get anywhere in 5 minutes because everybody always spoke to him. So as a child, it used to really, really frustrate you because you couldn't get from A to P, without anyone stopping and chatting to your dad. So that's I can remember all that quite vividly. And then we started riding motocross bikes in our back field. It was quite good because it had a stream that was like basically to clear it, you had to double it, and it had a hole in the field that looked like a bomb had landed in it. So you had some natural
which was probably actually the case in Northern Ireland, isn't it?
Yeah, so it may well have been a bomb. I'm not too sure. But yeah, we all grew up riding there, and the memories are me and my brothers. The 5-time world champion now, Jonathan Ray, was regularly up, and friends of ours as well, the McCammons, and my cousin Lucy, who's actually married to Cal Crutchlow now. She used to be up on I think she had a Talajet. So there was like a range of people up every weekend, and that's where it all started. So in the blood from Dad, and then that's when the wheels started to turn.
All right, so obviously we've briefly touched on your family. Obviously you've come from, well, you've got a big family, haven't you? How many brothers do you actually have?
Yeah, there's 4. So there is four brothers, and then no, hang on, sorry.
Your dad's a good-looking guy. Yeah, you're sure he hasn't got any more? Obviously
he probably does. You know what it's like. No, I don't know. There's 3 brothers. So there's four boys in total, and then I've got a younger sister as well. So yeah, it's proper. Everybody has raced. Other than Sarah, who she competed in horse riding. So yeah, it's proper competitive. And now, we all started in motocross. Then I jumped across the tarmac. Andrew jumped across. Graham remained professional in motocross. Ross retired and got good jobs and bought a couple of houses. And now we're all back racing tarmac again. So Graham's made the switch, and Ross is racing locally in Ireland. So we've all came over to the good side, the dark side.
So, all right, and in which order is who then? So, are you the oldest or the middle, or what's the crack? I'm trying to.
No, so Ross is the oldest, and then it's me, then Graham and Andrew. So Andrew's the youngest boy. So yeah.
And obviously did you say Ross has just came back to racing this year?
Yeah, he was actually away from racing for 12 years, but to give you a bit of an idea of how sort of quite good he is. He was an Irish champion in motocross, and he started riding a Super Twin 650 just over a year ago, about 14 months ago. And then we managed to get him a ZX10 sponsored by a company, Magic Bullet, over in Northern Ireland. And he's been on it about 3 or 4 rounds, and race 1 at the Sunflower was atrociously wet conditions. And he actually passed Una McGlinchey and David Allingham, who was on a Build-based Superbike. And it looked like he was about to finish 3rd behind Christian Dom and Cooper, and he got the tea bag in his fuel pump. It's something that it's quite like dad and lad type thing. You're not running around with top class technicians stripping the bike down between events, but the tea bag was bogging, and the bike started to cut out on him, so he finished 5th. But to pass them guys was unbelievable. It was surprising. Yeah, really unbelievable. It was really good to watch. Me and Andrew were jumping about like we were on the bike ourselves. It was brilliant.
To be honest, it is phenomenal, because when you look, you're all at the top end of your disciplines, all of yous. So is there something in your dad's bloodstream or something that I could particularly, I don't know, can I get a blood sample? Well, that's it. You know what I mean? Can we not just bottle racing success and just make a fortune of it? Chrissy, I think we should delete this podcast now. We'll just go into business with Glenn.
You're talking about being a competitive family. Imagine I can just picture you turning up at a go-karting event as a family day out.
Do you know what? It's bonkers. It's absolutely nuts. We don't do it too often because we always fall out. Cause everyone wants to win, but no, it is good. I don't know how it's worked out. Where we all have came quite far in racing so far. Definitely, I think natural talent that you get from your parents that's proven in a lot of sport. If your father or your mother is good at something, quite often the kids take up that discipline, and we've there's definitely that isn't it that battle of nature over nurture. So kind of the nature side of it maybe is what you have in the blood, and the nurture is kind of how much effort you put in to make that talent better. So I know we've all worked really, really hard. I took the training serious, and then Andrew came along and he started to take the training really, really serious, and Graham was doing the same for motocross. And Yeah, I kind of go along the lines of you only get out what you put in, and it's a real corny saying, and loads of people say it, but it's so true. And I guess we all do work hard at it. It's the only thing I can say. But I think my dad as well has been a great upbringing. He
Do you know
doesn't. Sorry, go ahead.
when you're out and about these days, obviously with your dad's, being famous in the past, and then your brother with the motocross side of things, when you're sort of out and about the local area, who gets stopped the most for sort of pictures and selfies, and who would you say is the most well
I know
known?
the answer. It's his sister.
I don't know. I think obviously due to the size of the Northwest 200, like I'd love to answer this and say not me, but probably me.
You're just a bunch of competitive nightmares, aren't you? So
Yeah.
Andrew's our next guest next week, and we're gonna. So if you want to slag him off now before he slags you, that's great. You know what I mean?
Oh, I will slag him off plenty. No worries. But yeah, no, it's funny because usually like Andrew will be like, "Oh, you're Glenn Irwin's brother," and like this is up to a point where he's won a British Superbike race this year. Sorry, he's won a race, and he'll still get that. But a couple of times lately, like I've been asked, "Am I Graham or am I Andrew?" And I'm Andrew's brother, and you're like, "Oh no, starting to turn. I need to get my finger out." So it's and he is loving that.
And obviously,
It's all good.
Graham stepping across to road racing this year. Obviously, I presume you had played a big part.
What, Graham? Graham's coming to Rhodes now, is he?
No,
Like
Chrissy
Tom,
means,
Tarmac.
Tarmac.
That was one of my questions for later on. I'm thinking,
yeah. Obviously, his step from the motocross to tarmac, was it? It was an injury of the wrist or something that actually forced him across. Is that right?
Yeah, it was. Do you know what? He's had loads of niggles in motocross. Like he's broke his neck. He's had both his shoulders operated on. All the usual things that you break, frequently in that game. And he talked about coming over, and he actually had another year's contract with KTM to do Grand Prix in British. So he walked out of like when he signed that 2 year deal. He was just finished up as a British champion with Honda. So he was obviously in quite a lucrative position. Within there's not massive amounts of money in the game, but he was at the right end of it. So he walked away from the final year of his contract, and fair play to him. His wrist wasn't right. It was a scaphoid injury. The bone had to be took out and put in like 3 times. And I don't even know if there's a bone in there anymore or what way it is. But he talked about it. And yeah, you do what you do as family. I had a decent year at it and thankfully managed to pull in a little bit of support for him. And I built a bike and kind of went from there. It's happened now. It's not about what we done, but we got there. We built the bike, and we've been for years racing. All our bills are paid. We don't know any money, and we managed to do it. But it was difficult as well. There were some things I got for his bike at the beginning of the year that I thought were going to be phenomenal, but obviously I didn't know the difficult time that I was about to have. So he did race with sort of some negative in the bike that he shouldn't have had. And it's only when he spoke to me at the final round that I kind of caught on, and we managed to rectify that and change the map in it basically. And he went out at Brands, and he was running a very strong 6th, I think, before he crashed out. So I do think, although he showed his potential, I don't think he really got shown what he could have done, because there was that definite underlying issue at the time. But now that bike's absolutely mint, and he showed that at the final round. But he'll be good next year, Chrissy. He'll be annoying you.
Yeah. Is Graham sorted for next year?
No, not yet. I think obviously there's certain teams in Stock 1000 that would be certain teams perhaps making a comeback that you might be aware of as well. So there's been conversations had, but I think like that we'll probably end up doing our own thing again, just for the pure fact that you can control the budget side of things. If you can get into a good team and you've an offer and it's affordable, you go for it. But there's no point Graham paying, there's a lot of, and you guys will know this because Chris, you'll have witnessed this. There's a lot of all fur coat and no knickers, And where he is now, I think he has to jump into something that allows him. Like, is he going to win the championship? Definitely not. But can he win races by the end of next season? I would say he definitely can. And the only way to do that, to compete against the likes of yourself, Richard Cooper, Keith Farmer, I hear, when it potentially was going back. I don't think so anymore. But guys like that, guys like yourself, for somebody like quite new to compete with you, they need to be on the best, because you guys are going to be on the best as well. So we're working really, really hard. He showed me a plan tonight, what he thinks it will cost, and I could see he was trying to save a few pounds here and there, and I'm like, Graham, just don't save that. Just put that in, and we'll try to find that. We can't do it. I don't believe in doing anything in halves, but at the same time, like, our dad drives a lorry. There's no family business. It's just the generosity of sponsors and ourselves just helping out.
Mm-hmm. And there's yeah, I presume you'll have a lot of sort of local support from Northern Ireland that that's like helped your dad and your brother. Is it Met Healthcare that's been a big backer for you and your brother?
Yeah, there's do you know what? There's just so many that I could mention.
Spend the rest of the podcast listing.
Honestly, yeah, we could chat about it forever. But like MET Healthcare, along with Megastore 247, initially started to back me, and that was in around the year prior to Martrain, and then the Martrain year and onwards, and that really, really got me going. And then since then, like, multiple sponsors jumped in. James Jameson Construction became my biggest sponsor and continues to be so. Phonacab, you'll see them on like My Leathers, Graham's Helmet, Lee Johnson's, Scott Swans and Moto 3, Jeremy McWilliams. He's on the Tyco bikes. So,
and if you're Irish, you're going to get sponsored by Phonacab. Is that?
Yeah, basically, and pretty much, lads, when you land in Belfast and you need a cab, you get a Phonacab. So look, there's so many, but
I'm ringing Glenn Irwin. That's what I'll be doing. I want a free lift. I'll be like, yeah,
give me a shout. I'll get you a few quid off. But yeah, MET Healthcare have been really good with Graham as well. And, we have our plan for next year, and that will depend on, we do need like MET to do what they done for me and to do what they done for Andrew, and they continue to back us. They're continued in a lesser way, but still in a very, very generous way. They back us as personal sponsors now. So if they can do for Graham what they done for us, I believe the ingredients are there that he'll make it happen. And it's funny who jumps back in. Like you'll remember Cody Nally, his uncle Des used to run that team, Des Nally Developments, and Des has been really, really good to Graham this year. He's came on board. A guy, Josh Wilson Developments as well. So there's loads of people, his long-term sponsors from motocross, like Chris Scarlett. So yeah, he's a lot of people to thank too, and that's what will allow it to happen next year again.
Fantastic. And go on, Dom.
Oh no!
I was just going to say, at what point in your journey did you sort of go from being that sort of privateer where you were sort of chasing a dream to then stepping in and being a sort of professional rider and moving up the ranks?
The last year that I paid to go racing was 2014, which was into GearLink in the first year in Supersport. And to be fair to Mike, it certainly wasn't what it would cost, to run anyone in Supersport.
Like a discount,
so,
yeah.
Yeah, it was kind of like, in around the fee of what you would have paid for stock 6 back then. I think now stock 6 ride could be, I don't know, would it be £40,000 or whatever? I'm not too sure. But it was, it wasn't even to that extent. The following year was a free ride there. And then we went on to PBM. First 2 years were no salary. Year 3 was salary. This year was salary of Kawasaki and Tyco, and it's kind of went from there. So yeah, it's all going good now, but you also realize how quick it could go back. So don't get me wrong, like, you don't just go on professional and take the foot off the gas.
Yeah.
Like, you work harder and harder because you get older and you have, like, I have family now, and then you have bills, you have house, you have to put food on the table, and that's a reason to to keep working hard. But the biggest reason is it's what I love doing. It's what I loved doing before it ever paid me a pound. And it's what I would probably do. As much as I use all them reasons, I'd probably put the same effort in if it was still just my hobby, because I love it. It's as simple as that.
And well, actually, I don't know if you know, but we had Keith Farmer on the podcast. Was it last week or the week before?
I've heard all about it.
We were talking about
Hold on, wait. Hold on. What do you mean you've heard all about it? Is that a good thing or a bad thing? What? Go on, then let's get your opinion.
It's really, really funny. I feel sorry for Keith. I really do. I don't get it. I really don't get it. We had a nice dinner. So we did with Tycho at Oldham Park. We were all out having a bit of fun, and it was like myself, Christian, and Keith. Had to go for a dinner with guests of Tycho, and it was really good fun. Good evening. I drove the hire car, and we had a bit of crack. And I've never ever had an issue with Keith. I started racing against him in 2010 in Ireland, and then he won the Superstock 600 in 11. I finished second to him, and then we never really raced against each other until Superbike. I think, that's kind of the way it's went. And it's my Superbike career has probably been a bit more successful than his. Maybe not through his own fault. Some difficult teams, he's had some injuries. As we've seen. But I think, did I hear that he had said that one of the Irwins doesn't speak to him because I haven't got over a championship? Like, I'm certainly not too hung up about what happened in 2011. Like I say, I'm lucky what I do now, and it's sad that Keith thinks like that, but maybe he, I'm sure he knows that's nonsense. Maybe that's just how he has to deal with it himself. I don't know.
Oh well, maybe we can have we can have a chase the race and
chase the race.
We can unite. Dom's eyes are lighting up.
No, do you know? In all honesty, it's tongue in cheek, but Keith is like a lad. He's raced with Andrew for title, and yes, I'm Andrew's brother, and that got argy-bargy, with Andy, but that's racing. At the end of the day, the way I see it, it's a dangerous game, but we all love doing what we're doing. There's no point carrying anything, but he always pops up with a little whisper here and there, and I'm like, oh man, come on, just let go of it. Let go. But it's all good. I don't lose any sleep.
I bet. And so after you had that Superstock 600 battle with Keith, did you say 2011?
Yeah, 11. Yeah.
So you then went up to Supersport and were with Geerling for a while. One year in particular stands out for me was the year when Luke Stapleford won the championship, and there was self, Luke Stapleford, Kyle Ride, Jake Dixon, Andy Reid, James Ruspoli. I've probably missed a few people out, but it
was hellish racing.
It was a fantastic year of Supersport, and that year I was riding for the Haribo team. And
in Stock 6,
yeah. Well, and as a team, we all used to go out and watch, and we all used to have every single Supersport race. Everyone would stand around and put £1 in the jar, and we would pick a rider who was going to win. And so it was brilliant to watch, and that sort of really stands out as the sort of I don't think your bike was very strong that year, but it was definitely clear that you'd made a big step forward with your riding, and I think at that point you were ready to step up to a superbike. But yeah, I mean, what's your take on your sort of Supersport journey?
Yeah, like any time at the beginning of Supersport, you step in and you get your kind of ass handed to you, and you have to learn and improve, and then comes an opportunity where you can maybe do what you can do, and that opportunity came with Geerling. And like you guys said, I felt like there was bikes that year where there was like Luke Stapleford, him who is a great Supersport rider. He went on to qualify pole ahead of Sofologa at Qatar, in the years that followed that. So he knows how to. He's a middleweight class expert, and he had a very, very, very good bike.
Where is he now?
He's actually still in Superbike, but I've heard retirement on the cards and whatnot. I've seen a little bit of Facebook statuses, but I don't think.
How old is he?
I don't think that will happen.
I've actually heard that. Somebody told me that he was planning on buying a Ducati for next year and running his own teams on profile Ducati.
Right.
which would possibly make sense after the success that he had running his own team in Supersport. But like you say, he did really shine on the Supersport bike. However, he was strong at Assen this year on the Suzuki. That was definitely
his phenomenal.
His standout performance of the year. But interesting.
He's a top rider. Like, and racing against him that year with like Rispoli and Andy Reid on the traction control Yamaha, that was a good package. Jake was on the Smith's bike, and to be fair to Jake, he was like at the end of the year at Brands. I think I broke down in qualifying or something and came up through, and I managed to match Stapleford's pace like throughout that race, but I caught Jake, and he was the only rider I could pass down a straight, like with slipstream, so I could pass him and he could pass me. So both our bikes were fantastic. Like the gear length bike, the chassis point of view, allowed me to kind of be me and to go to the limits of what a Supersport bike could do. But for over the course of a year to win the title just was, to be honest, Luke was strong, and Luke and that package together were a step too strong for me. And I think just the top speed a little bit hurt us, and racing against guys in 600s that weigh maybe 10 kilos lighter than you, you do notice a difference. I'm sure you have before as well. And it can be tough, but at the same time, what I learned that year was I had to ride so hard to give any fight for a win or whatever, to win any race that I did. And then when you step onto a good superbike after that, you can kind of show that you deserve that because you've had to ride so hard.
And obviously going into Superbikes, it was like the golden opportunity essentially, really, with stepping up with the Paul Bird team on the Ducati. How did that deal sort of come about from Supersport?
Honestly, it was really, really weird. A sponsor had bought a bike off Birdie. He's a collector, so I think he bought like Ian Hutchison's TT Stock 1000 winning bike that year, if I'm right. And a really random kind of like series of phone call thing, to collect the bike. Just said, "Oh, what's your plan next year?" And there was no connection that James was involved with me or anything. And he had said, "Oh, I'm looking at putting a young rider beside Shaky. I'm looking at Kyle Ride or Glenn Irwin." And my sponsor rang me. He's like, "You got to get on to Paul Bird. You got to get on to him." So it went from there. And to be fair to Birdie, he stuck to his word. He gave a young rider an opportunity, and that was me. And again, it's all about grabbing opportunities. When I heard of that was going into Assen, I think we had 3 rounds left, and I managed to beat Kyle, I think, in every race from then till the end of the year. And I seen it like there was a golden ticket as such to Superbike.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
And it certainly was. But when I look back now, we had 3 good years there, and the last year was definitely the best. My pace was there to win loads of races, but I didn't win loads of races. I probably had to win earlier, to unlock that that I can do this, to get that deeper confidence. But the first year, I don't think it really mattered what superbike I was on, because you're so new to a superbike, you're not getting the potential out of it whatsoever. The second year was a year I felt we could be really strong, and that got spoiled by a component failure of a left handlebar, and I broke my neck and knock hill, done my neck, my shoulder, my elbow. That was a difficult time, but again, fair play to Birdie. He's it's so easy to move on from a team and have a difficult relationship with your ex-team owner, but it's always stayed really, really good. He signed me again for the following year, and let's face it, we didn't even know if my tricep would even work properly again, which thankfully it did. And I felt like I repaid him. We were 3rd in the championship that year. I think Shaky was probably employed to win it. I was still to back him up as such. But we finished 3rd. It was good, and it ran its course, but it ran its course in a nice way. So yeah, he's somebody I owe a lot to for my chance in Superbike, and for what's coming next as well. I'm really, really excited about that, and I guess I can only thank people like Paul and that for giving me the opportunities in the first place.
So is it a case of, okay, are you still on talking terms with Paul Bird? Is it a case you walk over, hello son, or is it?
Oh
Or did
yeah,
it?
yeah,
Obviously, we're
bang
not
on.
going to
Like,
delve into details of why you stopped riding from anything like that. But is it still no unburnt bridges? Shall we say? Is
yeah,
it still
there's no
all
no
good?
unburned bridges at all. Yeah, like even when all the carry on happened, when we had the unfortunate thing this year where it didn't work out with the ride I'd signed for initially, and he did send me a message, like, keep your head up, you're a good rider. If you ever need to talk, give me a shout. And little things like when I had the problem with my eye in the middle of the year, he was straight on with like top eye surgeons in London. And you know, obviously Birdie being Birdie, like he's not exactly going to go to the local guy around the corner from him. So,
He's not going to
but
find the local witch
yeah,
doctor, is he?
he's not going to do the Chinese medicine. But you know what? Fair play to him. He didn't even. It takes 2 seconds to send that message, but he didn't need to do it, and he did do it. So
Well,
I
that's
really appreciate it. Yeah.
that's meant. You see, the thing is, right? This is from the outside looking in, and people read what they want to read. You know that.
Aye.
You're a professional rider, and you can people throwing bullshit left, right, and centre. But from the outside looking in, at the moment, it just looks like I'm going to say how it is. It just looks like you're crossing bridges and burning them. And
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it's obviously that's good. It's good to hear that that's not the case sometimes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So people be going, "Oh well, he's left there, he's done this, he's done that." But it's actually refreshing for someone like yourself to not be falling out with. You're going to fall out with people in walks of life anyway, but it's just nice to see that you're not just pissing everyone off, or they're
Uh,
not pissing you off.
Yeah. Do you know what? Like, and that was the case. Like, even with Pete, at Bournemouth and whatnot. It was a great opportunity when I went there. It was the first time I was contracted to a manufacturer. Like you're kind of placed in that team as such, from Kawasaki. So that was a cool thing to cool kind of step up in your career. And everything, obviously we thought was going to be really, really strong, and it didn't work out. But again, like, that was just simple. It's all timing. Like, I take this random thing in my eye completely out of nowhere, and I miss a race, and I'm about to make my comeback, and I'm thinking, do you know what? Like, we've tried, they've tried, and I've tried, and yes, there were some things that they couldn't do. As in, there was a problem with the bike that nobody could find out what it was, and it was making these crazy vibrations, and they got that sorted in the end. But I think there was more issues in that team, and Pete knew that anyway, that were going on in the background, and the right people knew them things. So as I was going to make my comeback, I had a good chat with Pete and Ross at Kawasaki, and I just said I didn't feel like I could do what I expected to do, and I also didn't feel like I could do what the team, expected and deserved to get in return and results. And that relationship ended very good as well. Like, as much as I bought some stuff off Pete this year for Graham's bike, and there was an invoice the other day for a reasonable amount, and if that didn't end good, them invoices don't get paid, but they get paid instantly. There's no hard feelings off Pete whatsoever. He linked Graham like spare rims for the year as well. The top of the range ones. So there was as much as that looked really bad on social media,
Yeah,
it
exactly.
wasn't the
That's it.
case
Yeah.
whatsoever. And the Tycho thing was, now that we're on it, we may as well explain it. It was a great opportunity. Things work both ways. I was really wanting another ride to kind of show that I hadn't lost it, and that I had pace still there. And Tycho at the same time, as much as they gave me the opportunity, they also needed a rider. So it worked both ways, because Keith had sustained his injuries, that put him out for the year. So it went good. It was I enjoyed it. Could you call it a success? Yes. We started to improve, and our last weekend in Assen was probably our most difficult, but it's the one that looked the most promising. We were second after free practice, and I hold my hands up. A couple of crashes, and I kind of rattled my confidence for that weekend. But at the same time, it's where the business side of things come in. You have to make decisions for next year, and you have deadlines to give yes or no's to, and
Yeah, that's it.
unfortunately, we didn't choose to continue that option, and you have to respect the team that it gave them an opportunity if I moved on to try somebody like Taylor McKenzie, to give him a trial for 2020. And do you know what? As much as it was annoying not riding, because I was enjoying the bike, as a business side, I can see exactly why it made sense to do that. And there was no hard feelings whatsoever. Like I had a good chat with Philip at the Sunflower, and a good chat with him at Brands Hatch in the grid in the Superstock 1000 race for Graham. So again, there's no hard feelings there, and I would like to think the door's open.
Well, which is really good to hear, because like, the thing is, recently we've somehow become like the dark web, haven't we, Chrissy? We're kind of we're trying to chip away, because from everyone just sees the tits and the glamour. Now, don't get me wrong, who doesn't like glamour and who doesn't like tits? But it's
sorry,
like,
oh, swore, sorry.
Oh no, crack on.
Swear jar.
Oh, that's it. Chuck it in the charity jar. So, but it's a case of, people are paying for rides. People don't see what goes on, and people only get given one side of the story, and that's what happens on social media. So it's great to hear your side of it, and I think a lot of people will definitely see that from a different perspective, massively. But right, on a total unbiased note, because both me and Chrissy race Kawasaki's, which is your favourite bike then? Ducati, Kawasaki, BM. Sod your professionalism right now. Just pick a bike.
Well, I was actually just going to say, obviously, we'll put a thing on the Facebook and the Twitter for people to ask questions, and it seemed like a fitting time to ask. But a guy called Matt Late on Facebook said, having ridden the Ducati V-Twin, Panigale, the ZX-10 and the BMW, what are the strong points and the weak points of each bike? Which I thought was a great question.
It is a good question. The strong points, the Panigale was really, really strong out of a corner like Graham Hill Bend, and is it Surtees that takes you onto the back straight at Brands. It had great punch out of a corner like that, but a corner like Drades, like turn 2 at Brands, was just a little bit too slow for it. It's the same as Not Kill Hairpin, and it would really, really struggle to punch out of them.
You say struggle to pull, as in it would just wheelie, or it would struggle in the
it would be a bit of a monster, but at the same time, as much as it was a monster, like it felt like a ZX-10 would leave it for dead out of Not Kill Hairpin. So it was a good bike when you were on its own. Really good, and like fast second gear corners, third, fourth gear stuff. Really, really good. Weak point of that bike. If you were in a fight, we'll use Not Kill as an example. You can roll through turn 1, 2, 3, 4 as good as anyone, and you can be right on the back of a ZX-10 going into Not Kill Hairpin. Good luck if you want to make a good lunge in the brakes. You probably end up in the grandstand. Its weakness was heavy braking. That was definitely
the Ducati,
its downfall. Yeah, the Ducati.
Really?
So it wasn't its best point, but it was really, really rideable. It was light. Yes, it could be.
When you say heavy braking, do you mean as in the rear wheel would just want to come up off the ground or lock up, or the front end didn't feel good?
It would never back in. So it would never, ever back in. But yes, you get rear picking up. I guess you get on a lot of bikes, and you can work that, with your setting. But in terms of feeling, when you went for like a big front end lunge, you just didn't feel like you were really going to get it stopped. It's just where the bike struggled. But then when I look at the ZX-10 was phenomenal in that area. You could pass anyone in heavy braking. It was a little bit more difficult through your third, fourth gear corners, your high speed corners. It perhaps didn't hold a line as good as a Ducati, but for me the edge grip is where I struggled massively with our bike this year. And that's that's something that really stood out for me. The Ducati had a lot more edge grip than the ZX-10, and then the BMW. Its strengths were it felt like riding a 600. Really, really nimble bike. Easy to ride. Don't like using the word easy in racing, but it was easy to ride. It was quite good, like in a left-right change of direction, like the Britain chicane, Hizzy's chicane at Oulton Park. Really, really strong in areas like that. Its weakness, obviously it's still in stock trim, so speed was definitely a bit of a weakness. And I think if they fix that, it will be competitive. But I guess that's something it looks like they've struggled with that, as you can see even in World Superbikes. But I couldn't find a lot wrong with the BMW other than it was a bit slower, but at the same time it wasn't running a Superbike engine.
So basically, someone turns up and goes, right, son, there's a couple of, there's several million squillion pounds. You were going to run your own team with your family and whatever, and you had to pick one bike. What bike would that be?
Out of all the bikes now,
and money's not an issue. I know you drive around your Lamborghini with your gold Rolex at the moment, but it's
actually a Ferrari with a Breitling.
Oh shite! Sorry, bollocks, missed that up there. So
I'm saying that as I'm sitting in my Citroen C5 Aircross, kindly sponsored to me by Charles Hurst.
Good stuff. So what bike? What bike?
Look, obviously the Ducati was a really, really strong bike this year. Really strong. So it'd be hard to say no to, but I'm probably like you guys. I'm on the internet every day at the minute, and like the new Honda sounds really interesting. But I don't know. It's hard to say.
But yeah, I know you're not going to admit to it, but I've started a vicious rumor that you're on for Honda next year. So I'm hoping the whole paddock's heard it by now. But hey, I know you can't admit it. I know you can't admit it, but tap your phone twice if it's a yes.
You guys are good.
Do
you know what? Like it's funny because obviously I spoke to the Honda guys with Andrew racing there, and me not been at the last 2 rounds, on track, and I went out and worked with Andy as a spotter, so I was in and out of the garage a lot with him, and thanks to the guys that they fed me in the hospitality. But you can add 2 and 2 together and get 5, and there could be there could be some truth that we've certainly had conversations for sure, but there's always other things in the pipeline and a few things still to get over the line just yet, with options.
What do you think of the Bautista and Leon Haslam lineup for the Honda World Superbike team?
Yeah, I think that's strong. That's the thing that really, really interests me. Like Bautista
not
left.
Messing about.
Yeah. Like when Bautista left, like a winning package that he was on. It sounds like he was paid quite handsomely there. To go to Honda. I think that's like an exciting kind of time, or there's a reason why he's done that. Do you know what I mean? The new bike is rumored to be really, really exciting. I know at the minute all we can see is like test photos, but I look at why has he done that, and you think that this bike must be good. So I think the team will be strong. The only thing is Leon rides very different to anyone I've ever seen. I can see it on track, and I've now seen his data. So in terms of development, I would say he'll probably like something quite unique to himself. But he will be a good rider to get the most out of the bike and what it can achieve type thing.
A question that I really wanted to ask you earlier in the conversation, but there wasn't an opportunity. When you were with Paul Bird, obviously being teammates with Shaky, who's with his success and his experience, how was it having Shaky as a teammate? Did he help you a lot? And were you sharing information, data? I'm just interested to see hear your take on that relationship.
It was really, really good at the beginning in terms of help. Back in the first year, the data side, you could overlap and see what Shaky did, different to me, and definitely I learned some things off him that I'll carry with me. Anytime I ride a superbike now, wherever it is, some little techniques that he has. At the same time, the two sides of the garage, as much as they were separate teams, as in crew chiefs and electronics, and they worked in slightly different ways. So I didn't always benefit from him in a bike setup point of view, but in terms of experience, you can look at him. He's really, really savvy. He knows what he needs to do to get the job done, and all he cares about is winning. And that's you can learn about how he applies himself. He's incredibly focused, incredibly determined, and I looked at him thinking it's not he certainly wasn't over the hill, but he was kicking on in his late 30s, and he was like still super fit. You know, you would see him getting changed in the lorry and testing, and you know he looked like a 20-year-old, if you know what I mean. So you can learn, like, there's a reason why he was still at the top, you know, right up till unfortunately his his incident. But he became a good friend. Like my young lad thinks the world of him. Like Freddie's only 3, but he still brings up Shaky in random conversations. Like, so he's had a positive impact. I learned a lot from him. But I think at times, you know, again, opportunities come. You know, like I said to you, the golden ticket perhaps at PBM, but going in as a newcomer beside Shaky, there's also a negative. You know, and at the beginning it was like you're in there and it's Shaky, the Shaky show, and he does so well at you know, and deservedly creating that vibe, because he was delivering the goods. So at times that could be tough. You'd walk down the pit walk and you get like 2 people clap for you at the beginning, and Shaky walks in 10 minutes late, and the whole pit lane start going mental. So little things like that, but look, you learn like that now wouldn't affect whatsoever. But no, he's a good guy, and he knows how to ride a motorbike, and it would have been lovely to see him come back, but you know, it looks like, I don't know, reading between the lines, that he probably won't be back, but he's had a great career.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously, I understand that you've got to be professional, and you might like struggle to answer this question. But with the Kawasaki job, what went wrong? What would you say was the issues of why that combination didn't really work?
I think the team won't mind me saying this, but I think sometimes you have to listen to the rider and not talk too much about the past and previous riders. That's I think.
Yeah, each year is different. We can hear what you're saying. You know what I mean? No, because you can't go back. You can only go forward. So
correct.
That is the thing. So, right. Speaking of going forward, mind. Obviously, you're coming to the TT. So, are you the man who's going to stop Peter Hickman next year?
Hang on, there's been no announcement I'm coming to the TT. I keep reading this rumor as well.
Well, look, I'm spreading them and you're answering them. So come on a bit.
Yeah, like for sure. Like there's a definite interest in coming to the TT. Still a few things in that bit to be kind of boxed off, but we are close. We're definitely we are close, but it could still go either way, to be truthfully honest. But let's say it was all to happen. Would I? Like, am I the man to stop Peter Hickman? Like, honestly, I spoke to somebody the other day about this, and when I arrive at the TT, like, it won't be Glenn, the BSB race winner. It won't be the Northwest winner. Like, when I go there, I'm just the new kid, the rookie, and
you see, the good thing is people, because especially in roads, as you know, people ask about the TT, and everything else around it. But the thing is, you're a very, very successful roadsman as well. You know, you've won Northwest, you've won Macau. Now, did you win the Ulster as well?
Nah, I finished second in my debut season on a 600. I did manage to lead the race.
You see what I mean?
128.4 or something first year.
You see, there we go. And you just think people don't forget that, but it kind of is, because quite frankly, you step in and out of it, don't you? Opportunities. You do. You're just like, all right, I'll turn up and this and that. And obviously, Peter is very much a known dual rider, shall we say. You know what I mean? Does the roads every year as well as the BSB every year. And it's a case of, you know, don't get me wrong, you know, the TT, people have high expectations, but you know it takes time to learn. But let's talk about something that you have done already, and that's in regards to the Ulster. So, you know, if MV Augusta give you £6 million, you turn up on an MV next year, and you turn up at the Ulster. Is it something, because that we've talked about it on the pod loads and loads of times? It's a bit like that onboard footage of Peter Hickman on the BM passing Dean Harrison. It was just a phenomenal footage, you know. And when you looked at that, you know, is that something that you think, well, I can do that, you know, that I can take that pace to Peter on a road?
Yeah, when you look at it, you definitely, the racer in you thinks like that. And I guess the thing I can take a bit of comfort with at the Ulster is I have been there, you know, and I was competitive, and I've raced Pete there in the 600 and whatnot. But until you go out, like I always say, road racing, so you can never really go and we've all made predictions in the past, and half the time you read these predictions in the paper, you haven't even said what the paper is printed. I said before Northwest this year, of course I'd love to win every race because you're a motorbike rider, but it doesn't. You never actually go out and say I'm going to. Road racing's funny, and like Dom, like you do it, so I'm sure you'll understand. But like the Northwest this year on the Tuesday, I couldn't ride at all because it was the first time I was on a road since the Northwest the year before, and since then a lot had happened. We had lost Dan, we had lost James Cowton, Adam Lyon, William, and things like and they were human beings. Outside of the leathers and the helmet, you sleep and go to the toilet like everyone else and eat. Do you know what I mean? So
yeah, exactly.
Things affect you, and I couldn't ride at all. I couldn't. When the bike got out of control, I probably thought it was even more out of control than what it was. I couldn't stop looking at the furniture and things like that. And it took a bit of a reset because, I think a lot of that was due to that difficult period. And on Thursday, I loved riding my bike at Northwest probably more than I ever have. And that was on a bike that we were still struggling with, with some issues, and I managed to do the fastest ever lap. So it was, it's so funny how I can turn around. But even like when I go back to the Northwest, like it's a little bit different there because I've got a bit more success there, so I feel like I can talk about it without talking nonsense or anything like that. But we are strong at the Northwest, and I know when we do go there, when we get into the right frame of mind, that we are a competitive package, and I do feel quite at home at that event. But then, like, if the TT was to happen, like, that's completely. Like I read something the other day, like, can you become the fastest ever newcomer? One thing I won't do is go to try and become that. All I can do is, like, I've spoke to Davy Todd. He had a good debut, and right, okay, what did you do? I've spoke to Hickey and heard Hickey talking about what he's done, and well, I go to the island quite a lot. Yes, I'm planning on doing, like, if the green light goes ahead, do that like 2 days a week type thing. I'm already learning the track in preparation anyway, and I watch like 4 onboard laps every day, and I play the PlayStation. So, like, all I can do is learn it as best as I can, and you don't go there. Like, I don't know how you done it in your debut year, but I certainly won't be going to the TT to go out and go flat out. I'll be going to really enjoy riding a motorcycle there, like, kind of privileged to be there, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And the thing is,
it's weird,
especially when the TT's concerned. It's quite frankly, it's only the arseholes that are going to be like, "Oh, you didn't become the fastest newcomer." It's especially the TT. Don't get me wrong; all the roads are the same, but there is as you've highlighted, there's a huge difference between the Northwest and the TT. Yeah. There's a humongous difference. It's a bit like, all right, to me, this is my opinion. It's like, the Northwest is very much more a short circuit, and you can see that, and that's where that discipline comes out. And then the TT is well, it's full on, isn't it? It's just it's a proper road circuit.
Yeah, the bumps and, like, watching the onboards, like, you never see somebody on a super bike going from second to third or second to fourth or fifth gear in such a short space of time when the bike doesn't even want that. The bike wants to be revved out, but because of the nature of the track, like in the run from Ginger Hill to Carramore onwards to Glentrammon, Milntown, it's so bumpy that you hear you guys short shifting that much that you're actually taking power away from the bike, but it's the only way through that section. So it's not a get on and ride it flat out, and that's what I'm learning, by asking the right people as well. And it's funny, again, when people talk about the newcomer thing, like, when you look back, like Davy Todd's a top rider, and went in 2018 when there was the best weather there's probably ever been at the TT, in our lifetime, and he didn't manage to top Hickey's record from 2014. And the way I sort of look at it is, like, I grew up really excited about the Northwest because it's on our doorstep, and from I was 12, I probably could have told you every corner on the track without actually ever deciding I'm going to learn the Northwest track. we just naturally know it by living close by. Um, and then my dad never done the TT, so if you look at Hickey, like he didn't grow up beside the Northwest, so he hasn't had the success there. But yet his dad did race the TT, so he's probably grown up, and when somebody does say like Hilbury Tomb or Ginger Hill or Gorsley, he can immediately like vision what it looks like. Whereas for me, if you said them corners to me 2 months ago, I couldn't have told you if they were lefts or rights.
I'm still struggling now, Glenn.
Yeah. So do you know what I mean? Like that's for me. It really like I haven't grew up with. I've grew up with a racing blood, but I've grew up with nobody in our family that ever talked about the TT really. And there's a lot of learning needs done. I have to learn so much homework needs to be put into it, and I'm enjoying doing that. If it all comes off, like all I will say is I will be ready, and being ready doesn't mean I will be ready to go and to achieve something special. I will just be ready to go and compete. I'll trust myself to go there.
Are you looking at doing a full road calendar? So are you looking at the the Northwest and the Ulster as well as the TT?
No, it's I think a few people sort of thought things like that. No, that's probably not. It's not what I want to be. It's not about being anybody really. I love British Superbikes more than anything, and I'm looking forward to hopefully getting back there on a strong bike if we can get some things over the line, and just enjoying my riding there again, enjoying riding good machinery, and seeing where that takes us. And the Northwest has always felt like a holiday race. Again, just because of probably the special memories as a kid growing up there. So I've always loved being around the North Coast on that week. So I enjoy it. It's like a relaxing week for me. Although now we're always kind of under pressure to perform. But I do enjoy it. The TT is like it must be one of them races if you're ever to win that, there's like winning the BSB race is really satisfying because the level is so hard and everyone is so fast from first to 20th. Like they're all top riders. So it's really satisfying. But if you were to win a TT, it's like sentimental. Do you know what I mean? And I think it's something that I would love to compete in. It's a sentimental race, and never mind even winning one. Just competing in it and starting a journey, and wherever that journey takes you, it will take you. But in terms of adding in, if you were to throw in more road races there, like you're rolling the dice more often. I always talk very open about it. The more road races you do, the more you roll the dice, and that's kind of. I don't want to be that person who's saying I'm away road racing again this weekend. I don't want to do that all year. Like if the TT's over in June, I can put my head down and concentrate on doing the best job I can in BSB, and if that puts you in the showdown, then happy days. And if it doesn't, then then it doesn't. Do you know what I mean? And it means in the second half of the year I can concentrate more on the short circuit side and do a good job there.
Sure. And obviously earlier in the conversation we were talking about Keith Farmer as a rival. You've also had a rivalry, like quite a strong rivalry, especially at the Northwest 200 with Alistair Seeley. Obviously, with you both being quite local, one thing that's really struck me over the last few years is the unpopularity of Alistair over at the Northwest, even though it's like a home race for him. Why do you think he's so unpopular with the local fans?
It really is a strange one. You could look at, is it because he was so successful? Like in any sporting discipline or in motorsport in particular, you get somebody who wins week in, week out. You can kind of get bored of them, but then there's also a lot of winners that we don't get bored of. So I don't think that's the case. Alistair he's a good guy. I always find it difficult, getting asked a question like this because I like him. If you see him like at a motocross track during the week doing some motos, he's like he must be coming very close to 40 now. I think he's 39 at the minute, and he's still like a 16-year-old. He's full of enthusiasm, full of the fun, full of banter. Always
and he's
having a bit of
fast.
crack. And
Very,
he's
very fast.
Yeah, he's very fast, and it's weird. I think, look, it can be one of them things. He's maybe said the wrong things at the wrong time. Maybe some things he said there's no right time for. He rubbed William up at Church Corner. Rubbing a Dunlop up in the north coast of Ireland is one thing. To then go on an interview and say Robin's racing, it's what we do in BSB. Immediately after it is probably like, oh no, you haven't said that. And I know, like, he would never intentionally hurt anyone or do that. Because thankfully I do know him away. I know him to go to the pub with. So it's just I think all what I'm saying, and the truth is, he also doesn't really care, and I mean that in a positive way to him. There's the keyboard warriors out there, and I don't think they get to Alistair one bit. So I think he's quite content, by not trying to make amends to that.
Fair enough.
And his results are showing that, which
doesn't affect his results, does it, whatsoever? So.
Exactly, which is good. It shows the professionalism in him. It does. He's there to do a job, and he does it very well. So which is brilliant.
Tell me this, Dom. What's your favorite section of the TT, and what bit did you find hardest to learn as a newcomer?
I'm still learning it now, man. Never mind. Bloody hell. No, hold on. What are you doing? This is me and Chrissy's show. We ask the questions, son.
I know,
you can't be throwing things like you want to do it different, you bloody hell. Bloody hell. Well, I had to learn to ride a bike first, and when I went to the Isle of Man, it was my second year ever on a motorcycle. It was a case of, and like my dad raced the TT and everything, and it was a case of we never did onboards, and my dad was very old fashioned in the fact of saying you only learn it when you get there, and you look up to your dad, won't you, and you're going, all right. And I never did onboards or anything.
So you arrived there and never done onboards?
No, I never did onboards.
Oh my word! I wouldn't even know what way to go.
Wait, my dad. Well, you see, the mad thing is, my dad just said, "Look, you'll learn it when you get there," and the only time I learned the track is when he broke down on the classic bike. I had to go pick him up in the van. That's the only time I learned the place.
Serious?
Well, and it's
that's mad. You're nuts.
What's your favourite section?
I'm trying to think. You see, the mad thing is, it's not really learning it. The biggest problem when you get there, son, is you almost have too much time to think about your mistakes, and that's something I advise you, which you can't do, because every time I used to do it, like not this year, the years before, I was going corners going, fuck, why didn't I hit the hammer harder? Why didn't I tip in it? And you're going into the next corner going, shit. But the realistic side of it is, when you get into a race at the Isle of Man in the senior, you get 6 goes at each corner. 264 plus corners, and that is something that you've really got to you've almost got to forget about, and you've got to take each corner as it comes. You remind yourself of the mistake when you approach it. But
don't dwell on it.
Exactly. I was coming out of corners, like when I was tipping, like you end up finding yourself wanting to tip in too early, and then the more years you go, you'll find yourself, well, actually, I need to start tipping in early. But like, there's a couple of bits like bottom of Big Arrow when you're tipping in just before Douglas Road corner, going into Kurt Michael. That's a corner that'll drag you in proper early. And I learned that by mistake. But then I'm going into Douglas Road corner for years going, oh, shite, I've knocked the lap. And then you're like, bloody hell, whoa. And then you're on the brakes down to second gear. And that's definitely a bit of advice that you just think, if you make a mistake, it's sometimes the best thing that can happen to you. Because you just think, well, if you run on the brakes, like going into Ballacrane, there's bits like that. You can try. Yeah. Sometimes the best thing you can do, son, is make a mistake, overshoot on a corner and go, all right, just enjoy getting back. Don't let yourself get
back.
My best times have ever come from just getting home. If I've run up into a corner, I've gone, oh, shite, there goes the lap in practice. And then I come home and gone, how the hell did I get that lap speed? Because I've calmed down.
Your reaction this year when you achieved what was your lap time?
129.8.
Your reaction was brilliant. I've seen that video.
The thing is with me, right? All I've ever wanted to do is race bikes. I haven't been able to afford it, and at no point did I ever think I'd get to the TT for a start ever.
Yeah.
You know,
And be a good rider at it.
Oh, you sweetheart, you sweetheart. And no, I thought I'd never be seeded, and I thought I'll never get in the top 10 on a superbike.
Yeah.
And it just when you came in, honestly, it was just like well, you can see. Unfortunately, I've been filmed. You know what I mean? It's as long as it's like me getting on karaoke drunk. I end up getting naked. And like it's just stupid things, man. I get over the top of everything, man.
Here, Chrissy.
Yep.
If you do you think if you had the same package as what Cooper had this year, obviously being in the paddock and whatnot, that you could have, like, I've seen you in the paddock for a long time, and I really rate you, and I think the Superbike opportunity didn't work out for you or whatever. You're unlucky to not get staying, but do you think that you could have fought with him week in, week out for victories?
This season just gone.
This season, yeah.
Well, a bit like yourself, I had a lot of sort of teething issues at the beginning of the season with the Kawasaki. So for the first few rounds, we were miles away with the bike, and then from the sort of mid-season onwards, I was a lot more competitive, and towards the end of the season, I got my race win at Donington, beating Cooper, and then I felt like I had the pace to beat him in the last race, or certainly challenge him in the last race. And unfortunately, I was involved in an accident.
Yeah.
But in all honesty, watching Cooper on track and on TV, I think he did a sublime job this year. And it's very ifs and buts, and different setups or whatever. It's all talk, really, isn't it? And at the end of the day, the facts are that I didn't challenge him week in and week out. So to be honest, I'm gonna say no, not this year. I think he did a better job than me, consistent, and he was, as a you can talk about one race, like odd races and odd practice sessions or whatever, but to be consistently in all weather conditions to do what he did this year I think he did a fantastic job. Yeah. And that's not saying in the future, next season, that I can't change that, because I see a lot of room for improvement in myself. So obviously that I'm aiming to improve, and I've beaten Cooper this season, and I've beaten him in the past. So I certainly don't think that's not doable. But
it's bringing it week in, week out. The key does, isn't it? Absolutely,
yeah, sure. Yeah. And I haven't actually talked about next year yet, but I have actually just sorted a deal for next year, but it's getting announced this week, so I'm not going to mention.
Oh no, go on. Right, Glenn, you tell us who you're riding for, and he'll tell you who he's riding for. I think that's
who he's riding for.
All right, well, we'll just leave that there. And anyway, I tell you what, I have actually got a few other things that I want to get into this podcast. Is we've got a roads correspondent for the podcast at a Hardy Breed, and they sent us some information over about the future of the Ulster Grand Prix. Obviously,
the next one.
Well, me and Dom have actually spoke about the fact that I believe there's some financial issues there, and I think riders are still waiting to be paid from this year. Now, the lad that sent us the information across, it's his favourite meeting of the year. He absolutely loves it. He said as a spectator, it's by far the best experience that you can get. The mass road racing at that speed, fast flow, and obviously the speeds, and like the racing this year was fantastic. But I believe that over the last 10 years, a lot of the events have unfortunately been cast with bad weather, and therefore they've had poor attendance, and the club is maybe struggling financially. Do you know if there's any sort of route? There's rumours that it's going to be taken over by some new investors, or can you shed any light on that?
Do you know what? I was speaking about this in the gym earlier. One of the, I'm not naming the fella, but a family connection of somebody very, very, very involved. within the Dundrog club. We spoke about it, and it sounds like they are relying, on an investor or somebody to, if you want to bail them out type thing. It's really sad that's that it's came around. Like the Ulster Grand Prix has had, I think that they've had Agostini racing at it before.
It used to be part of the Grand Prix years ago.
Yeah, it did. It was part of what is now the MotoGP Championship. So
it's crazy. Isn't it?
It's. I'd love to say I was going to say, if you told Marquez to race there, he'd probably go round every corner with his elbow in the deck anyway. But I can't see the rest of them being as brave as him. But no, it sounds difficult. It's a really, really difficult one. As a rider, not competing at it, I feel for the riders who have went out and put, it was a really good day's entertainment. The club done a really, really good job because the weather was horrendous. I think it didn't start until about 12:30, 1 o'clock, race one, but they got the full program in, and for the riders to have put on such a good show. Peter Hickman obviously dominated, Lee Johnson and whatnot, and to hear, maybe these guys haven't received their money. Obviously this is all hearsay, so we don't know. Maybe some of them have, some haven't. But that's difficult for them. But at the same time, it's not nice to hear the club's in the position. I just hope that it gets bailed out. I honestly, there's not much I can tell you. I don't really know a lot about it. I've asked a few questions, but from a sentimental side and for history side, I hope it continues. It's had a lot of top class motorcycle racers have been victorious there, and we'll have good memories. A lot of famous racing images, are at the Ulster Grand Prix, and it's a track I've thoroughly enjoyed riding with. The club themselves personally sponsored me for a few years and to run the Ulster Grand Prix logo on my leathers in British Supersport. So, there's connections there. I'd like to see it survive, and it's like anything in life. You learn from your lessons. What's went wrong. The attendances and money dropping down. I think is part of it. If I don't know. Let's just hope it gets sorted out and everything's done wisely. And I think it suffers a little bit in a way where, we spoke about this earlier. It's an international, and there only is 3 internationals. Like Macau doesn't fall under that banner. Macau is more of an exhibition, if you want to call it that. And your TT, your Northwest, everyone goes to it. The short circuit riders go, and the road riders go, and they can use the line that they're there to get practice for the TT. I think we all agree a lot of them are there for more than that. They're there to fight for wins, and it also happens to be before the TT, so it happens to be good practice for the TT. It's not why they go, but when the Northwest and the TT has happened, with whatever injuries we've had to riders throughout them events, and with whatever else can happen in road racing, and people having good years, people having bad years, people calling it their season early after a good TT, people calling their season early after a bad campaign, and the Ulster Grand Prix is the next one along, so it can lose. The lineup is just not the same as the previous 2 internationals, and it's unfortunate because it is the best track I've ever ridden in my life. It is phenomenal to ride. I'm sure you'll agree, Dom.
I couldn't agree more, mate. It is phenomenal.
It's awesome. So it is the road surface, the conditions, the work that the club put in. You can't make road races safe, but they have removed an awful lot of hedges, and it's still every bit of as exciting spectacle to watch. It still is a very much so road race. It's as alive as all the road races are. Despite having a lot of hedging removed, and as a rider, it's nice to see the work that goes in. So I really hope it continues. It's somewhere that I would love to return to in the future. I can't see it being next season, but I would like to think that if I did want to return at some point in the future, that the opportunity to do it would be there because the event is still in existence. So that's all I can really say. Good luck to them, and I hope it really works out.
Fantastic. And one thing I while I was reading up on the event, I seen that years ago, so between 1922 and 1952, the track was actually 21 miles long. It had a 7-mile straight. Imagine the top speed if they're raced on there now.
It also used to have car racing at
Yeah,
it, so
that's
it
right.
did as well. Yeah, so
It's unfortunately
there's a lot of history, isn't there?
Yeah, massive history, and like you say, for the obviously, hopefully, we'll get something sorted one way or another, and the racing will continue. But I tell you what, we'll. I don't know if you've listened to the pod before, but sometimes we do Dom versus the guest, and we do
right.
a little quiz. So it's a multi-choice quiz. But just before we start that, obviously, I know you've been involved with the Aaron Clifford. Like the sort of raising awareness and the charity stuff. Have you got any updates on how he's doing after his crash?
The last I seen, it gets to a point now where looking on the Facebook really, and not torturing Big Ken with a message or anything. So it looks to be, I've seen photos of him with. I actually seen James Puttrell was in the hospital.
Yes, I seen
James
that.
obviously had got paralysed at Brands Hatch a few years back, so it's nice to see a photo of the two of them together, and Aaron sitting with a smile on his face. And I'm not a doctor, but I think a head injury is a type of thing where the prognosis can be really, really, really good. You just have to be patient and take time. I've had friends before have had head injuries. I had a serious head injury when I was a kid in a car accident, and things like that take time, and everything comes back. So I can only hope that that is the case with Aaron. And it's a pity. The main thing is that he's now out of danger. It sounded very worrying at the beginning, but he was having a great season. But all that's not relevant. When your life kind of comes into into question. But it'd be great to see him back on a motorbike again. I think as racers we always dream like that. So I think we'd all agree that it would be great to see him with the helmet back on, or even at a BSB just watching on the sidelines.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Well, if you see him, send him our best wishes from both of us. I was going to say everyone are chasing the racing, but there's just me and Dom. So
Our parole officers just walked in now. Sorry, Terry. Sorry, Glenn will mention it. Don't worry.
Okie doke. So we've got 10 questions, and basically we'll just alternate between you and Dom who can answer first, and I'll read the question, and then it's A, B, or C. Okay, so. Right. Glenn, you can answer this one first. Question 1. America's Wayne Rainey was 3-time 500cc world champion. Sadly, his career was cut short after suffering a serious back injury after an innocuous crash at Misano. What year did he win his last world title? Is it A, 1992, B, 1993, or C, 1994?
B.
You're going B. And Dom?
I'm having a clue. I'm gonna go A. Let's go A. 1992.
So question 2. Which of the following riders have never won a British Superbike title? A, Sean Emmett, B, Terry Reimer, or C, Rob McElhenney? So Dom?
Oh, man. I was going to answer the same answer that he was going to give on this one. I'm going to go, Terry. What Terry there? Number B, letter B.
What about you, Glenn?
Rob Mac, C.
Rob Max or C. Okay.
Question
3. Which of the following corners do you come to first on the TT course? So we'll see if you've done your homework, Glenn. So you can answer this one first. Is it A, Handley's, B, Carramore, or C, Doran's?
Right, so Handley's is before Carramore, and Doran's, I have no idea where Doran's is, so I'm gonna have to take a chance. Handley's is just after the 11th. I'll go Handley's, but Doran's could be anywhere in the track. I think go Handley's, yeah.
Okay, Dom.
God. I'm going to go Doran's, Handley's, Carramore.
It's just which one comes first.
Oh, shite. C? I think it's... No. Oh, there'll be people screaming at this, Glenn. There'll be people going, you bloody idiots, man.
Do you know what? Because I'm learning it loads, and like the big corners names stand out, but Doran's...
Nah, I'm gonna go with C. Yeah, man, I've been round it a few times. I should know.
Nah, it's definitely Hanley's, isn't it? Because Doran's isn't.
Well,
Like-
we'll see. We'll see in a second when we
Oh,
mark
nah,
it.
it's
But
not.
Dom's went C, Doran. So, okay.
I've won round there. I don't know where I'm going.
Question 4. The last 5 World Superbike world titles have been won by a man from Northern Ireland. What nationality was the last rider to win a title before Johnny Ray? So is it A, Italian, B, English, or C, French? So Dom?
C, French.
C. And
E-
Glenn?
Yes, it was Sylvain Gantoli, wasn't it? French. No,
French.
was it? Yeah, it was. I think so. Yeah.
Okay. I think Dom's buzzing that he's got the same
I've
answer.
actually got an answer. No, I do.
Okay, question
Surrender
5.
monkey.
So which of the following riders has won the most TT? Sorry, which of the following riders has the most TT wins? A, Peter Hickman, B, Robert Dunlop, or C, Michael Rutter? So Glenn?
Robert Dunlop.
Dunlop, so B. And what about you, Dom?
Most wins.
Most wins, yeah.
Hold on. Peter now, is it? I'm going to go A. I think I'm going to go A.
Okay, Peter Hickman.
I hope it's Robert.
Okay.
Everyone wants it to be Robert.
Question 6. Which UK race circuit is the longest length? So is it A, Cadwell Park, the full circuit, B, Oulton Park International, or C, Oliver's Mount? So Glenn?
Longest B, Oulton Park.
B. And Dom?
I'm going to go Oliver's Mount.
Okay, Oliver's Mount, so C. Have you ever been Oliver's Mount, Glenn?
No, that's why I couldn't even put it in because I don't know. I've played it on the old PlayStation game years ago, but I wouldn't know how long it is.
Fair enough. Okay, question 7. Which of the following road races has raced in a 250 World Championship Grand Prix? A, Lee Johnston, B, William Dunlop, or C, Ryan Farquhar?
B, William Dunlop.
Is that, I can't remember if it's you or Dom first. Is it you?
Oh,
Wait, William, yeah.
So you've both said Dunlop, yeah?
yeah.
Okay, B. Question 8. So just remind us who's going to say this
Well,
first.
I'll have to go
so
first,
Dom,
Alex.
Dom
Right,
goes
yeah, it is Dom because I went first, so that means I go 1, 3, 5, 7, and 9. Yeah, so Dom.
So question 8. Which year did the first ever Moto3 World Championship take place? 2012. A, 2012, B, 2013, or C, 2011?
Ooh.
So when did it go from
And
125s to Moto3?
Wait, that... A. 12. I'm going to go 12.
Okay, and Glenn?
No. I'd be even younger.
It was C, 11.
2011.
Shit.
Okay, and
I hate this game.
So question 9. So Glenn first. Which of the following riders has won the most BSB titles, all classes included? Is it A, John Reynolds, B, Keith Farmer, or C, Yuichi Kiyanari?
Keo won it 3 times, didn't he? Farmers won stock 1000 super sport. I don't have a clue how many times. No, Keo's won it. Right, C.
C, Yuichi Kiyanari, and Dom?
Keo's won it 4 times.
Yeah, he has.
Farmer's won it 4 times, so I'm going to go John Reynolds for shits and giggles.
That's okay. And
Ryan Reynolds, brother.
And the final question, so who has won most Macau Grand Prix? Stuart Easton, Ian Hutchinson, or Steve Plater? A, B, or C? Dom?
It'll be Stuart Easton.
Stuart Easton, so you're going A.
Oh, no.
And Glenn?
Yeah, Stuart Easton.
He never did the TT,
Okay,
did he?
Use 2 talk for 2 minutes and I'll just mark.
I know, but Stuart never did it. He did the...
No, he didn't. And everyone always said he would have been a good TT rider. You know, he's sort of smooth. He had his injury at Northwest, didn't he? And I think that was that.
Now, was that all right? You see, that's the thing, because like you say, people don't, people just get hung up on titles, don't they? I think, you've got to do them all to be a roads rider. It's a load of shite, innit? And he was very much one of those, because he was so... Hold on, how many Northwest did he win? Did he win? Easton?
I think he definitely would have won 1 or 2. I'm pretty sure.
Wait, you just think
so?
I'm fully guessing. It's got to be a yes because, like you see it on his sheer caliber of riding.
Yeah,
You know,
I would imagine he won one. Do you ever reckon Chrissy will do a road race?
No, I met his mother. Not a chance. Here's a
No
question.
chance.
Here's a question, right? Obviously,
Yeah.
you're young and you're a little lad, right? He comes up to you in a few years and says, "Dad, I want to be a road racer."
No.
No, straight off the bat. There you are.
Yeah, it's like Graham's mentioned doing the Northwest next year, and like I said, Graham, you will go and you will win the Northwest one day. You know, you will. You're a good enough rider, and you're only going to get better. But you're not ready for it just yet, and that doesn't mean you're not ready in terms of to go and win. But you're not ready to, to understand just everything that
The actual
you need to be in
world
control
of
of. Yeah.
So we've got the results are in, and drum roll. So we've got Glenn, you scored 4 out of 10, and we've got Dom on 6 out of 10.
Oh!
Yes. Get the Facebook fired up. Herbertson's beating Glenn Irwin. Oh yes! Look at that! Look, I can hear the grit in his voice.
Just to let you know, we usually do 5 questions, and I think Dom usually gets 1 out of 5. So
He's on a roll.
So anyway, so the first question, so the Wayne Rainey one, which year did he win the world title? I've got 1992.
Right.
Which of the following riders never won a British Superbike title? It was Sean Emmett. Question 3, which of the following corners do you come to first on the TT course? So question 3 is C, Dorans.
Where is that?
Where is Dorans?
Is that Dorans? Is that not where Guy Martin had his crash?
Oh, Balagary.
No, that's not Dorans.
We've definitely had Dorans as an answer to one of our questions before. I definitely recognise it from this podcast, but we'll Google it.
Definitely through the Glen Helen section, anyway.
And then question 4, it was you both got that one right. So French. So the nationality of the person before Jonathan Ray to win the World Superbike title, obviously Sylvain Guintoli, French. Question 5, which of the following riders has the most TT wins? We've got C, Michael Rutter.
What?
How many?
Well, he's had a few electric ones recently, hasn't he? So
No. We're gonna have to go here, right? But no, that doesn't count. Not on this show. That doesn't count. No. Let's go back. Come on.
Question 6. So, which of the UK circuits was the longest in length? That was Oulton Park International. You got Glenn got that one right.
That couldn't have been far off though.
Question 7. Which of the
Doesn't matter. It was wrong.
So, which of the following races? Road races raced in the 250 World Championship race. You both got that one right as well. William Dunlop. Question 8. Which year did the first ever Moto3 World Championship take place? 2012.
Yeah.
Question 9, which of the following riders has won the most BSB titles, all classes? We've got B, Keith Farmer. So Yuichi Kinori must have only won 3. Well, if my questions are right. Loads of people tweeting.
Hold on, I wish you'd hold on. You're guessing this.
No.
I've just openly bragged in Glenn's face and I've just beaten. And if I'm wrong, I'm going to kill you, Chrissy.
And then question 10, who's won the most Macau Grand Prix? It is A, which was Stuart Easton. So you both got that one right. Well done. Well, it's obviously been probably one of our longest podcasts this, so thanks very much for joining us. Before you go, obviously you can't announce anything for next year, but if anyone's wanting to get any sort of merchandise or anything, do you sell merchandise?
Yeah, we actually I'm just literally announcing my new stuff now, so it's will be announced on my social media. If you keep an eye on my Twitter before the end of November, because there's some cool little things for like kids and whatnot for Christmas as well. Some different ideas, rather than the usual t-shirts and that. So there will be a link up on my social media pages at the end of this month, probably if not before, from middle of November to the end of the month. There will be a full range of new stuff. Different supplier. It's all really, really cool. All different types of ranges, and it's quite nice as well.
If people want to follow you on Instagram and Twitter and stuff, what's your Twitter tag?
Yeah, the Twitter's just at G Irwin Racing. Instagram's just my name, Glenn Irwin, and my Facebook is Glenn Irwin Racing. So yeah, get on, give us a follow, and hopefully we can have an exciting year with a bit of fun and listen to you two numpties more often on your podcast.
Fantastic. Well, and for those people that are eager to find out what your plans are for next year, do you have a date that it's getting announced?
I think I'd like to think sort of by the latter end of this month, that we'll know a lot more. Still a few boxes, to cross just yet, but it's all beginning to look a bit closer, and we'll know a lot more very soon.
And will you and your brothers be over at the NEC?
Yes, I would expect to be. Yeah, I go every year. I'll be there with showy helmets. So, I'll be with showy helmets and with whatever else I may have to do as well.
Fantastic. Well, I'll see you down there. And I was going to say from all of us at Chase the Racing, but from me and Dom, thank you very much.
No worries, boys. Keep her lit.
No problem. Cheers, Glenn. Cheers, mate.
I did all that. Says header chair.
But that was a cracking chat, that mind, wasn't it?
Absolutely, it's. I think it's going to end up one of our longest podcasts, but I think it was well worth it. And
it'll be like, oh, my sore arse. Chrissy's been round my sore arse.
Another victory for Dom versus the guest as well. I think that's victory number 2.
Oh yes, he's never living that down. But hey ho. So anyway, before we pack up totally, Chrissy, how's that arm, son? Obviously you've been under the knife and your tits aren't bigger, so it's obviously something to do with the shoulder of yours.
Yeah, that's it. So I went in a Tuesday for surgery. Like I said on the last podcast, it's actually it's an operation that needed doing, and it's been in the pipeline for probably like well over a year. I've needed this, and it's one of those things where in the paddock, a lot of lads will be carrying injuries, but it's not something that you sort of talk about or publicise, because at the end of the day, it's a bit of a weakness.
Yes, I understand.
So I've massively kept it on the DL this year.
The DL. Hold on, you know these videos you're shooting, your DL. What's with the DL? Just say it down low. You're not Will Smith's son here. You know what I mean? On the DL. If I have a word with yourself, you're in media now, son. Stop.
So, it is funny sitting with this new setup. I think we'll be going back to the motorhome.
I know we're going to have to, because this is a bit crotch heavy for me, because I'm just speaking at the microphone. We're trying to look at you, but you just got your full on wide leg open here. I'm looking at your DL too much. Anyway, yes, so your shoulder, how are you getting on?
Yeah, so it's I actually had a few problems this season when we had pre-season testing right at the beginning of the season at Silverstone. I didn't actually have a crash, but I had a little bit of a tank slapper, and as the bike, I started to lose the rear, and as it snapped, it pulled us out the seat, and it pulled my shoulder out of the socket. So I didn't crash the bike, but I had to go to hospital, and I was in for, it must have been out of place for about 3 hours or something, and the people really, really struggled getting it back into joint. And then it's been a lad knocked us off at Donington this year, and as he hit us, that forced my shoulder out of joint. So when I hit the ground, it was already out, and that was unbelievably painful. So it's one of those things, it's not a pleasant feeling, getting an operation, but it needed doing, and it's massively for the greater good.
And you've been on morphine before the show. You do look a little glazed over. It's brilliant.
I've been on morphine for, it'll be coming up a full week now. They obviously gave us some to take home, and it's because I don't drink or take drugs or anything, so my tolerance is extremely low for any,
these weaknesses. These weaknesses we're telling you about. All these lads are going to be spiking your drinks with morphine and stuff like that now.
That's it. So it sort of takes the edge off the pain, and I've got this sling on for 6 weeks, and then I think it's about 3 months I need to take off doing any serious sport. But obviously I've timed it perfectly so that I've got the off season, and then as soon as get Christmas out of the way, I'll be back in the gym and get preparing for next season. Obviously on the podcast, that we've just done. I mentioned that the fact I have got something sorted for next year, which it'll be getting announced before our next podcast. So I'm really, really excited about that. And obviously, I just grateful to all the people involved for sorting it. And look, I'm going to enjoy talking about it on the next podcast.
Is this the drugs talking here? That smile's unreal. So you're obviously very excited, mate.
Yeah.
Very excited, which is mint.
But obviously for yourself, the season hasn't actually finished yet, and you're off to China.
China.
So when do you fly?
Wednesday. I actually fly from Heathrow on the Wednesday there.
Is it a direct flight or?
Direct flight, and then you land in Hong Kong. Then you get a train, and then you get on a boat. Then you get there, and then you literally just walk to the hotel from there, straight there.
I've heard loads of good things from people who've been out to Macau, both competing and just people like in teams and whatever. They say it's like the best trip ever, best place. What's your take on the place, not the racing?
You take fresh air for granted anyway, because I'm telling you, because obviously it's so muggy and like hot, and humid and that, which we don't get in the northeast whatsoever. Mm-hmm. It's bar that, it's a trip of a lifetime. It's absolutely class, and it's obviously if you're into gambling, it's unreal because it is just a floating casino.
Someone told me more money gets gambled at Macau than at Vegas.
Yeah, it makes more money than Vegas. It's just like, well, obviously all the locals, they don't go on holiday. They just save all the money all year, and their holiday is to go and try and double it. Mm-hmm. And that's all they do in that. But it's so heading out over there, and it's a long time away from work. I don't do well with doing nothing. That's my only little worry. Obviously, there's the odd bike show and everything. The Macau government pay for to go over, pay the teams, pay for everything. So yeah, it's good to get a little bit of a wind down. But going into Macau, it's the next stage is obviously just improving where I was last year. Because this time last year, I lost my digit. Mm-hmm. So for you to sit here in the sling instead of me is actually quite a nice change, son. I'm not gonna lie, but anyway.
Well, while you're there, I expect you to be spreading the word, the chasing the racing word, and I'll be checking the downloads to see if we're getting any increase in the volume of the Chinese downloads.
I could be in debt. They are. I'll be robbing them all. But obviously flying out there Wednesday, get over there. So you're going to unfortunately have a couple of weeks without a podcast unless Chrissy actually finds, a double of me. God help you if there is a double.
How long are you out there for?
I think it's 10 days or something.
Right. So
10 days, and it's only like you get there, then you get the one practice on Thursday, then you get the morning warm up, then qualifying, and then one race.
Mm-hmm. And from the track point of view, obviously I've watched it on TV, and it's lined with Armco. What's it like to ride into?
It's mint.
Surface good?
It's mint. It's just mint. Thing is, when you get a hot day on a short circuit back here, your just confidence goes up, doesn't it? You think it's hot. Out there, it's just hot all the time. Mm. It's just surreal, man.
Grip level good.
Mint. Absolutely mint. It's the whole thing, because obviously it's like mainly a car event. Mm. So the car lads are just putting like endless amount of rubber down, just bang, 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 and then by the time we get there on the race day, it's like, let's go for it. It's absolutely class, man. Absolutely class. But no, there'll be plenty to talk about when we get back there, Chrissy, and obviously we'll have a full Macau update and how your arm is, and obviously your news will be out. There's lots to talk about. But here, I think this podcast will be far too long. I think it'll be on still going when I'm still in China. The amount of time we've been. Don't have wine gums, kids. They're bad for you. There must be actual wine in them. But anyway, Chrissy, get well soon, lad.
I will do. And obviously, my best wishes for Macau. I hope it's a safe and successful event. And
skids and wheelies, bitches. Skids and wheelies.
Whereabouts did you finish there last year?
18th. But obviously, without sounding like a little whinge, but obviously with my hand, I qualified right at the back, and it was like 27th position or 26th position. Mm-hmm. So finishing 18th, over the moon with that. But obviously, just want to go out there and improve and get some track time. Son. So we'll go from there. But obviously, thank you to Glenn for being our guest. Absolutely awesome. You know what I mean? I think he's definitely tidied a few things up there, especially on my point of view, because you don't get these opportunities to sit down and go, well, what's actually happened? Mm-hmm. And just to get his side of it, and the fact that He's not pissing people off. He's not burning bridges, and that's refreshing.
Mhm.
It's really refreshing.
Just out of interest, we've had a lot of. Obviously, I put that thing on the Twitter and the Facebook asking for questions and stuff for Glenn.
Aye.
And there has been a lot of people talking about the whole will he or will he not do a 130 on his first year and stuff like that. Obviously, as a competitor, knowing what he can do, say at the Northwest and the Ulster, and what he can do on the short circuits. Do you think is there a possibility that he could do 130 first year, or do you think it's?
Oh no, there's always that possibility. You need the luck on your side. You always
the
need
weather.
the luck. You need the weather. You need everything. The thing is, it's like the lads who have turned up and done them near lap times. They haven't turned up on. They haven't turned up with their own bikes, and they haven't turned up with crap people, and they get the support straight off the bat. The IOM TT team have obviously said, look, we've got an established name coming, and they chuck a lot of effort into that and make it as safe as possible. So, hey, never rule it out, mate. Never rule it out. He's more than capable as a rider, as we all know. He's 100% capable of it, but he's very much got the right attitude of being the mature approach to it, instead of going, well, if you aim for it, if he aims for that, he doesn't get it, it's going to disappoint him, or even worse, he could hurt himself trying to chase that straight off the bat. And if it comes, it comes, and if it doesn't, it doesn't. But as a rider, he is 100% capable of it.
Yeah. I like the way Glenn approaches his racing, and it's not just sort of turning up and having a go. He thinks a lot about the racing. He has a lot of people helping him out. I know Charlie King works with the Irwins as a sort of spotter, and he works with various other people. You see him walking the track a lot. You can
It's calculated.
He takes it seriously, and obviously with the training and everything. And I think he's also good for we're talking about him helping his brothers, but I think he's been very good for the Irish, the Irish lads coming through. I think he helps a lot of the young lads with advice and sponsors and stuff. So he's.
I'd like to meet his sister.
I've never.
No, mate, I didn't know you had a sister. You kept that secret, Glenn. You kept that a secret.
Probably for a good reason.
Aye, that's it. She's probably like 6 foot tall, blonde, absolutely stunning. She's like, you're not coming. You're staying there.
I tell you what. Obviously, huge thanks to Incontango Training, our sponsor for the podcast.
Yeah.
I would also like to say a special thanks to our Hardy Breed Roads correspondent for sending us the questions for the Dom versus the guest.
Dom's the boy.
And also the some information on various things that were talked about. I don't know if you've seen, but Hardy Breed are doing this high five sort of thing with sort of asking people to donate £5 towards the Road Racing Cup idea that I shared. We've spoke about it on the podcast, and I shared it on Twitter. But essentially, all the money that's getting raised is getting put into a prize fund for
supported,
national road racing as a prize fund for the lads. So every penny goes back to the sport, and if you're in a position to help, me and Dom are both supporting the High Five campaign, and
High 4 and a bit. Yeah, mate, that was so gay. That was one of the... Anyway, right, yeah, Chrissy, let's shut this down. Thank you, Glenn. Thank you, our sponsors. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everyone, and best of luck at Macau. See you soon.
Cheers, mate.
Ciao.